welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Rollison, also known as T-Roll, and tonight I am joined by the full squad. Here we go. First of all, we got Justin Sandoval back for vacation, a.k.a. Sandy. We also have Anthony Amato. We like to call him Shamato. And of course, down to my left, we have Applezack's Zach Markham as well. Boys, the band is back together.
The band is here, yeah.
The round table at my rectangular table is here.
Yeah.
We were never good at geometry.
I honestly wasn't. I think I got a C in that class.
Any sort of math I was never good at. And we are here to review the finale of Rings of Power Season 1. First of all, can we just give it up for this show before we even...
Yeah, it was... Awesome.
It was a ride.
We need like an actual sound bite of just a round of applause.
A crowd cheering. Yeah.
I might have that. So if you hear that later, it's because I found it on my laptop and we added it to the video.
There you go.
Nice.
But yeah, man, a lot to talk about. We're going to get into it. Just want to pause briefly before we do and say to everybody listening, everybody watching, first of all, thank you. Second, would you please like the video, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you're listening. Leave us a comment, leave us a review, share the pod. All of these things really help us a lot. And we do anticipate, maybe a few more people listening to this episode, this podcast, because it's of the finale. So if you can share this with some of your friends, that really does help us out tremendously. Also, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just search at Royal Geek Pod, and we're on all the things, even TikTok.
That's right. Even TikTok. Yep.
We're all over the place. So help us out. We'd appreciate it. So, anyways, boys, are you all freaking ready for this?
Dude, finales are always great.
Dude,
man.
Let's get it.
Awesome.
It's finale Friday for us. We're recording this on a Friday. So, here's your spoiler warning. You have been warned. It's time to break it down, boys. This episode number 8 is called Alloyed.
Yes.
Yep.
What did you guys think?
Man, it was a wild ride.
Yes.
It really was. And the thing is that it took me through several different emotions just from the start. Like, for example, we had the reveal of Sauron. They just came out and said it. And at first I was like kind of shocked that they actually said it right there. I
got to stop you real quick.
Yeah.
How many times, I want everyone to answer this, how many times did you guys say, throughout this episode, say what?
Yeah. Multiple times, yes.
It was crazy.
At least 4 times, yeah.
I was going to say 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I was shocked because they just said, "Oh, Sauron, we're here for you," right? And I was like, "Okay, wow, they just did that." But then I immediately felt disappointment because I was like, "That's the big reveal."
Yeah,
that's the big reveal of Sauron. Like some crazy looking white-eyed lady just went ahead and dropped it like that.
Yeah, just casually.
Yeah, and then it continues to unfold, and we see that it's not actually him, and they actually drop it's the other one, it's the Atari. I'm like, oh, okay,
yes,
wizard, what's going on? And then the ride continued with Galadriel and finding out who Sauron actually is, and then
that one shocked me.
Just absolute like wildness as far as the way it was presented, and the action. There was not a whole lot of action. However, the things that took place were so dynamic, it felt intense, like it was an action.
Correct.
Yeah, it
loved
was
it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was set up so well, and like it was intriguing, and it drew you in with everything that was going on. They did a great job of they kind of like got all their action knocked out in episode 6. Yeah,
that's
and
right.
then like past that, it was just all wrapping up like what was going on, but it wasn't like a bad wrapping up. It was a very like all the storylines were being pulled together, and you were learning about everything that was, finishing up with all these different intertwining storylines, and you finally like they left you with such a like it was satisfying, but also made you want more, which was an amazing way that they did that. I loved it.
Yeah. I enjoyed the series a lot. I feel like they did a really good job with this finale. There was a lot of like cool references and everything that they brought in that I love from the movies. Whenever they first like revealed the stranger as Sauron, like I was just like you, like I was confused, and then I was also disappointed. But then like as we further got along, like there's no way like this guy could be Sauron. I'm still sad that it's Gandalf, mainly because of like 2 references that he said. The one at the end, I can't remember what this. All right, so one reference, the one at the end where he said like when in doubt, like always follow your nose. and that was the same reference Gandalf told Sam in the movies.
Yeah.
So I'm set that it's Gandalf. There was a couple of things that I was disappointed in. The main one being that the last episode at the end scene we got the reveal that the Balrog was awakened.
Yeah.
And they never like followed up with that.
Good point. Actually, they did not follow up with that at all.
So I was kind of curious because I feel like that could have been like a really good like call out, and they just didn't do anything with it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens the next season.
Okay.
Well, we talked a lot about the stranger who, I guess, are we all in agreement that that's got to be Gandalf?
I mean, yeah, I feel it's got to be.
It is, and you mentioned that he said the follow your nose line, but he actually said at least 2 more things that reference things that Gandalf said in the original trilogy.
Yeah, the banishing of the I don't know what you call it, those prophets or whatever. I forgot about that one, but
Return of Shadows or whatever.
yeah, back to the Shadow
Yeah,
Realm.
and
which is what he did with the Balrog,
Right, and then he has the journey line with Nori, and that was another one. And so this, it is Gandalf.
Okay.
And I don't.
So,
Which, by the way, when we go
Yeah.
that does not line up with the timeline that Tolkien has
In the books.
established in
Yeah,
the
no.
books. So I can see a lot of the hardcore people out there being
gonna be happy.
being very upset with the fact that that's happening. However, let's keep in mind that this is an adaptation of an appendix. They're not even adapting the actual book content, and you can have liberties when you're adapting from a book content to movie. You just as the viewer and the fan of the books and the reader, you kind of got to take a step back a little bit and be like, can we have the content that this is Tolkien has provided and have it in the format of a video and be smart enough to make a decision that, okay, I can let that slide. I'll be a little lenient with that.
Yeah.
Well, it's also about like, okay, so the biggest issue that these shows usually come to is contradicting themselves. And I don't feel like this really contradicted anything that has already been laid out. And so as long as it does not contradict itself, I'm okay with it. Like if they had been like, oh, Gandalf, or started out as evil and then he became good. And then it would have been like, okay, well, what are you doing? Like it makes no sense. Like
Right.
Gandalf could not have been that. Like that doesn't make sense for his character at all.
Correct. Yeah.
But as long as I think the biggest thing to understand is just to understand that Gandalf is who he is in the series, and he seems to be working his way towards how he is in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So what? He shows up a couple hundred years before he's supposed to in the Tolkien world, right? Who cares?
yeah, but he's a wizard. He ages differently. Right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, let's hope.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to talk about. So the whole sequence in this episode, where those I guess those witches or
I think they're called acolytes, is what I think they're called. But
Acolytes?
I could be wrong. Yeah.
you boys got no idea, ladies and gentlemen. So, but regardless, the 3 crazy people dressed in white, they come to worship and follow Sauron, right? So they think he's Sauron. They pronounce him as Sauron.
Yes.
And again, like when that first happened, I'm watching by myself, and I literally said, I knew it, because I thought that from the beginning, but I always felt like from episode 1 and 2 when we had that review, somebody on here said, we all think that's Gandalf, right? And I don't know if anybody remembers watching or listening, but I remember being like, yeah, that's got to be Gandalf. Like, I just, because I don't know a lot, so I just figured that I at the time, I really thought it was Sauron, and like this was his origin story. And then I'm going to go a little deeper. I was fully expecting for those 3 witches or whatever, to like kill all the Harfoots in front of him, and then he was going to lose his mind and then kill them. But to me that was still going to be Sauron. Like I was sucked in. So now I'm pretty easy to get on some of these movies and shows.
You fell for it.
You guys know that I fall for everything just about. But I was in, man. I thought, I was like, oh, okay, it really is Sauron.
Yeah.
So
it felt odd when it was revealed, even though I know it was one of the main theories
really?
about him being.
it felt odd when they said when they called him Sauron.
It did. If it didn't feel quite right.
I think it felt out of place, to be honest with you.
And maybe it was just because of the way the dialogue was being told. I know that was one of the 2 main theories, and it was kind of bouncing back and forth. Like some weeks it would seem like he's acting
he would do
more
good things
like,
and then he would do bad things.
yes.
Right?
So I think that was the entire purpose of what they were trying to play is that they were possibly going to be revealing one or both of these characters in this series. And I felt like they wanted to create a situation where you weren't sure who this one person was going to turn out to be. And I think they did a great job of playing the line. And, like I was saying, some weeks it seemed like he was more Gandalf. Sometimes it seems like he was more Sauron. And it really, but it also makes sense in this world that you would reveal both, because the world is kind of set up on like an idea of balance in a lot of ways. Like, for every great evil, there is a great good that is fighting against them in these situations. Even though it may seem like the good is a lot of times outweighed by the evil, there is at least a force of good that is kind of rises up to help, fight against the great evil.
So here's the thing. Okay, when she said, "We're here to serve you, Sauron," right? When she says that, as it was happening, it felt so forced that when I heard her say that, I was at first like, "Oh, that's how they reveal it," and then I was like, "Oh, that's how they reveal it," and I'm like, and then I really just couldn't wrap my head around. I was like, "This can't be him," because I feel like even though he has quote unquote amnesia, he did too many good things in order to, I don't know, like healing the tree, and then like just with Nori and his interactions with Nori.
Just his relationship with the hobbits or the Harefoots made no sense if he was actually Sauron.
Correct. Yes.
Truthfully,
especially since we unravel. Go ahead.
Unless they're all brutally murdered, and then which is what I thought was going to happen, and then he
Yes.
becomes rageful.
Yes,
I was
that would be
fully
why.
convinced that
Yes.
was going to happen.
Sam. Like I thought,
Thank you.
if once they made that reveal, I thought the next scene that we were going to get from that is obviously Nori, and the followers and everything that went with her. We're going to get murdered right there in the woods, and then he was going to go back to the grove and take out the rest of them, and that was going to be it. Like he was going to be evil from here on out.
So I would love to know, and maybe anyone listening, you can leave it in the comments if you're watching. Like, we're a little divided here. Like, you guys felt like if it was out of place, a little rushed. I felt like I was hooked. I genuinely thought that was Sauron, and so I wonder what the casual viewer, because I'm a little more of the casual viewer. You guys know a lot more of the lore than me. But I wonder what other people watching, how they experience.
I mean, it did pull me in as well, because I was like, okay, so they're doing this. How are they going to get to the next point with this? Like, how are they going to? I would have loved to have seen them unlocking his mind, if that actually how it was, like in the way he was set up. It would have been pretty crazy to see how it would have went. I do think another interesting thing is, so when he kind of takes care of the acolytes himself, and the way they looked, I don't know, it kind of makes me think like, did Gandalf have anything to do with the ghosts of man who were up in the mountains? Because they looked a lot like the ghosts that were up in the mountain when he finished them off. They
almost looked exactly like that. To be honest with you, and I thought about that. I did, but I didn't really think that. I don't know. Are they going to be the ones that are that, because we're still like several centuries away from there.
I was referring more to like, did he do something to them after they decided to not side with humanity? Like, did he punish them afterwards? Like, did Gandalf go a little rogue or something like that? Or maybe that's just what humans look like when they get turned into ghosts. I mean, who knows?
Maybe.
You never know with these situations, and that's just how they look when they turn into ghosts. Or maybe it was just a little like, hey, remember how ghosts look in the Lord of the Rings universe? This is what they look like. It could be that as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but I think that has more to. I think that might have more to do with with Sauron, and him taking out with the 10 followers of men and everything that he had, to maybe doing something like with them where they appear like the same. Maybe these followers are already with Sauron, so maybe they already be in that spiritual aspect, I guess.
Okay.
So let's camp here for another minute or so. Anything else? Again, this show wonderfully bounces around from different storylines. It's done throughout the whole series. Anything else on the stranger, who we now believe is Gandalf, and the Harfoots that we want to discuss.
Yeah, I will say we had a very big battle interaction with the Harfoots.
The Harfoots are scrappy, man.
Yeah, and the acolytes.
Yes.
Which I knew one of them was going to die. But
Are we
why?
sure that's what they're called?
I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I'm pretty
Sounds
sure.
like a professional wrestling tag team.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. However, I will say that Sadik was definitely not the one that I wanted to be gone out of all of those people, Harfoots.
I mean, I think he was the most likely to be gone, though. Unfortunately,
Honestly, why not the stepmother? The stepmother should have been gone.
The old wise one is going to be the one who's going to go. I'm sorry, like he's
But I will say, yes, he got a knife to the gut.
yes.
And it made sense when they were like trying to like rush to his aid, and he's like, no, let's sit down. The wise one, like you mentioned,
Yes.
the old wise one. Let's sit down. Let's watch the sunset together, and then that's when he like passes. Like that was exactly how I expected Sadik to go.
Yep.
He fulfilled his part of it. However, I did not want him to be the part of it.
In a weird way, it almost kind of reminded me of when Mike gets knocked off in Breaking Bad.
Ooh, yeah.
Like when he's just like,
True.
he's just like, just leave me be.
Yeah,
like,
don't worry about me.
Like,
Don't worry about me at all,
Just
yeah.
leave me at peace. What happened happened. I'm done for. You don't need to go any further. So that's kind of how I saw it. I was kind of hoping that I'd see a red sun though.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing that I was kind of hoping to see in that, or even if like when it showed up to the Age of Man, and I would have loved to have seen that little something like that. That would have been an interesting thing to show. Just the idea of the red sun meaning that blood was spilt this night.
Yeah.
Like that kind of idea.
And it was. So
Yes.
that was probably about the only other. I mean, the farewell when they sent Nora on her journey. That was pretty cool. I liked Poppy and her interaction at the end of the episode. I could really tell that. We started to build a relationship with them, even though we didn't follow the Harfoot storyline as close as we weren't as favorable to it.
Yeah.
We always ranked it last. However, the Poppy and relationship with Nori, you saw it grow. We were able to watch it grow, and I did kind of get a little like choked up a little bit when they were saying bye.
Well, you got the traditional Frodo Samwise relationship there.
Right, correct.
Kind of built into where there's one who's obviously the the leader, and there's the one who's the follower, but is like intensely loyal, like that kind of relationship. And not that there's anything bad with not being the leader, but it did create a situation where you kind of got that relationship that you get with Samwise.
Right. But as far as the rest of the Harfoots and Gandalf, quote unquote, that's really about all I have for them. I know there was a lot of other craziness that happened that I'm very interested to get into.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, what if we talked about Gandalf? Let's talk about Sauron.
Oh my goodness, man!
All right. So first of all, Galadriel shows up to whatever their elf place. When Halbrand, I'll call him that for now.
For now,
Looks to be about dead.
let me go ahead and say something real quick. I was
Yeah.
not on the pod last week. However, I did start to get the inkling last week that Halbrand was Sauron. The main reason for that was the episode before that when they were running on horseback. I don't know. I started catching.
By the way, everybody that's listening is not believing you right now.
Okay, that's fine. No, I don't care. When he was running on horseback and he just randomly shows up, right? That's one thing, right? Number two. All right, that's number one. Number two is that in this last week's episode, just the fact that Galadriel finds him and he's stabbed and dead, and he's I owe you, she. Okay, sorry. Let me gather my thoughts. She was saved by him, and then she then saves him. I just felt like that was too in balance. That her desires are to find Sauron, and it only would make sense that the one that she's choosing to save is going to be Sauron.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like at moments where there are early, looking back, and not saying that I was saying that he looked that way, but there were moments where it did seem like he was manipulating a little bit. So, when you're coming to that point, that makes sense for the character. If you're looking back at it, like a hindsight being 2020 situation. Not saying that I was thinking that, but just when you look back and you start to think about some of the things that he did and how he seemed to be manipulating, and even though he seemed to be fighting, he was kind of half-hearted fighting with a lot of this stuff. And I guess just his the way that he did fight when he fought was very brutal. So it was
Yep.
it was it was almost inhumane in a lot of the ways that he would fight.
Correct,
You
yeah.
know, so even to the point of what he does with the horse, like when he takes that when he's hunting down Adar. You know, like, you know, to take out the horse like that is a very, like, brutal move to do to the horse, you know? So, I mean, there were moments where it was like when he does get into combat, he's a very, like, ruthless fighter. And in some ways that's a good thing, but also it can be, like, the signs of a, you know, kind of heartless being, which would point towards Sauron.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Once they did the reveal, like, you know, it was a shock, but now, like, looking back to, like, the other episodes, like, you could see him, like, carefully orchestrating,
Correct,
you know,
yeah.
what he was doing. Like, he was, you know, plotting, you know, everything ever since, like, he was on the raft and he got the Numenor and everything. So, like,
Yeah.
he already started.
And even when
this-
they were in jail, like he was telling the king's cousin or king's brother that, hey, we know you know where she's going, like so you can like he's talking, he's
Correct.
manipulating,
Yes.
he's
Whispering.
very calculated about that, and
Yep.
from what we know in the Lord of the Rings lore. Well, at least three of us, and maybe not you. But Sauron was very good with his words and very manipulative, and he thrived on causing confusion within man to have them foil themselves rather than him actually doing the foiling against them.
Well, when he was in Numenor with Galadriel, and like he brings up some of the stuff, it's like, oh, well, who's really making the decision here? You know, he kind of brings up that kind of stuff. Even,
Yep.
but he's actually looking at it the other way. He's saying, he actually like gets Galadriel to admit to the fact that she's planning some stuff, when really he's kind of planning it, but he's letting her think that she's planning it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point of I don't want to call it the flashbacks, but when he is talking to her, and he's trying to, I genuinely believe he's trying to win her over. You guys thought that too, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he was trying to genuinely
Yes.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
genuinely wanted to win her over, make her his queen. Which, by the way, if that would have happened, they would have freaking
Wrecked the
Yeah.
world.
yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
But like I don't know what his intentions were
Power
for that.
couple.
If he like truly had feelings for her, or like she would have served a purpose to him.
Most likely the server purpose. Most
Correct,
likely.
yeah.
I mean, but
Maybe,
it's also a good idea to have a strong person beside you and someone who I feel like they had a genuine like connection at the
did.
very least.
They really
Power
did.
recognizes power, man.
Yeah.
Clutch, dude. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But again, he doesn't necessarily do a flashback, but and again, I don't even know what kind of magic or whatever this was, but he like messes with her
yeah,
mind.
it's kind of like a mind spell. Kind of like a mind
Yeah,
spell.
it was
Like,
like a
he
mind
invaded
spell.
her mind palace. That's
Yeah,
all.
there you
Yes.
go. There you go.
I just
And-
know if they like were to get married, those would be some rings of power right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Those rings.
Does anybody hear Tyler Sweat somewhere out there clapping and laughing in approval? Awesome. Yeah, that was well done. Well done, Marco.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, again, whatever he does there, and he's basically making that point where she's like, you manipulated me. He's like, no, you decided all these things. I wanted to stay in Numenor, and
Yes.
and as I'm thinking about it, I was like, yeah, he
Starting to make sense.
Yeah, it's like okay, I could really see a world where, yeah, clearly he was manipulating to make everything happen, but he did such a good job of it where I was like, well, no, actually, she was the one that was hell bent
Yeah,
on
He got
all this.
you. He got you is what he did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my thing. One, Justin thought that Halbrand was going to be Sauron.
I thought signs were starting to point to him, is what I thought.
I sensed something was up when he was talking to Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor.
Oh, so close. Gosh, I was like one letter
Trust
away.
me, dude.
It-
been
it-
there.
that was pretty good
Done
for-
that.
hey,
Yeah.
At the very least, I'll agree with you. Like, it definitely seemed like he was
Something was up.
like maybe not full Sauron, but there was definitely something there where he was pushing a little. He
Yeah.
started pushing a little too hard towards.
You can
whatever
tell he
was
knew
going
something,
on.
and and
Yes.
she noticed that he knew something, so that's why she gets the records and
Yes.
Correct.
so blah blah blah. But the point I want to make is, like, okay, how did he? I want to take it back a few steps, several steps. When we get introduced to him, he's on an escape raft boat,
Yes.
with a bunch of other survivors.
Yeah.
Does anyone know how that happened or why he was there? Like, I'm not.
I don't.
Here's the answer for you. No, we have no idea.
Okay.
Well, I have some idea.
Oh.
Not anything crazy. I don't know how he was on the lifeboat, the rafts, whatever you want to call it, with the survivors.
Lifeboat's probably better, yeah.
Yeah, lifeboat. Okay. But I do know that he was in a different form than his past form. Like he took on another form, which is why him and Adar didn't recognize him, but he recognized Adar. So as far as like what type of form he was before, I have no idea. I just know it was a new form that he took on.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we kind of saw that with one of the alkalites, where he was able to like take different forms.
Yeah.
That's true.
Of
Correct.
other people. So maybe Sauron can do it for a longer state.
Well, Sauron can do a lot of things that
Yeah.
I still I'm not even sure what he can actually do. But I know that he does possess powers that are extreme, and shape-shifting is one of them. So it could very well be that he is taken on a different form to blend in. I don't know. Try to kind of get in touch with the roots of Middle Earth, so how he can conquer them. I guess.
All right, I got to interject. So his relation. So when he's talking to Galadriel in her mind palace, all right.
Yes.
He says that something along the lines of "You helped me to fight like a common enemy."
He's trying to
Yes.
synchronize their causes. Is what he's trying to do.
Okay. Do you genuinely think that though that like Adar was his enemy?
Yes.
Like you guys do think
Actually,
that?
yeah, I gather that was what they're
Or was he
talking
putting
about.
on a front when he was pretending that he was mad?
Well,
with
here's the
them?
thing. I think it made more sense when he started talking about you, the elves want peace. That's exactly what I want. But the means of going about peace are completely different. Like,
Yes.
the harmony is what the elves want, the harmony and peace. But peace through rule is
Yeah.
what Sauron wants.
Yes, like he believes that putting everybody under the thumb of his rule is the only
Would
way
lead
to get to peace.
Yes. So
By-
I think that was what caused.
I understand that, but that's what I'm specifically asking. When he says, we had a common enemy, do you think he's lying in that moment to Galadriel? Or do you guys genuinely think that maybe, he's the one who had to flee and end up on a lifeboat while Adar is like leading his people?
I mean,
Or not his people, but
Adar
his-
did say that he had killed Sauron.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe he didn't like the way that Sauron was ruling, or maybe
I'm starting
Adar,
to think that, yeah.
Maybe Adar didn't like the way that he was running, his business, and I did think there was a possibility at some point in there that Adar may have had some truth to that statement, even in the last episode or two, to where he said it. And it was, I think we kind of played it off more of as a ruse of some sort that Adar was saying, but maybe it was part of, maybe the idea is Morgoth had, his disciples, and Sauron was one of them, and maybe Adar was one of them as well, and they were more like rivals in their own faction. Type of idea.
Yeah, because when he has that spear and he's about to kill Adar and Galadriel stops him, what did he say to Adar? Didn't he say like you took everything from me, or something along those lines?
Along those
Or
lines.
I can't remember exactly what he said, but it just makes a lot of sense. Like I'm almost thinking again, like I am under the belief that what he said to Galadriel, he was being genuine.
I think that everything he has said to Galadriel has been genuine. Like he has said, first off, when he said he was the king of the South, he technically is, because Mordor is the South, and he's the king of Mordor, so he's not wrong there. But also with, like, for example, common enemy, we were talking about Adar.
Yeah.
Peace, yes, it's true. He wants peace. Like even the things that he said, like even on the lifeboat. Yes, it was all true. Now,
From a certain point of view.
Yes, thank you. From a certain point of view, yes.
See, this is what I'm getting at. This is the evidence of a good show and great writing and great directing. I'm gonna have to go back and watch these 8 episodes, and every time I see Halbrand, I'm really gonna be paying attention to exactly what he's saying. Because even right now, I can't remember everything.
Of course not. Yeah.
But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a sign of a great show that could make you
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. The fact that we've only talked about 2 storylines and we're 30 minutes in almost, that's saying something.
Is that your kind gesture of saying we should move on?
I mean, I'm willing to camp out here for as long as we want. Like, I mean, there's tons to say, but like, there are some missing folks to this finale.
Yeah,
that
true.
I'm
true.
questioning.
Well, anything else on Sauron and Halbrand and Galadriel that we
Well, I think we should definitely talk about the confrontation that they have at the water side, the pond, the lake, or whatever, because she is there looking at the scroll.
Right.
He comes right around the corner. There was a lot of really good imagery I felt that they used. For example, when the Mind Palace and they're on the raft and they're both looking into the water, and the reflection is Sauron
Oh
in
my
his
gosh.
full uniform. Type
So
of deal.
good.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely
phenomenal.
incredible. Now, I think they could have capitalized a little bit better when they're standing there on the pond, not in the Mind Palace yet, not in the Mind Palace. All right, and they're standing there with the scroll. They could have done some like real life reflections of maybe kind of seeing like a shadowy figure of Halbrand and then her being in the light.
Well, I think. So you're just saying like the lighting,
Yeah,
like
it
maybe
could have been. Yeah, it could have been a little. I think
Okay.
that would have been cool to see. I mean, here I am just throwing out what it should have been. But however, that whole interaction was truly incredible. Their dialogue, and then the fact that she gets put into a trance or whatever you want to call it, and then she's being woken up by Elrond, and Elrond's like, "What the heck's going on? Like, what are you doing, laying here in the water?"
Yeah.
But you know what would also been cool is you notice she walks away and Elrond walks away, but then he looks back, right? How cool would it have been if Elrond sees a scroll there, and as he's like pulling it out of the water, like he kind of sees the reflection of a Sauron type figure, and he's like he starts figuring it out because the dude's smart.
Yeah.
Dude is absolutely
he
smart.
is, yeah.
Well, I think at this point also that wouldn't have worked because Sauron hasn't gotten to that point in this world. Like he can't manifest himself out like that. It's only in her in her mind that he can do that at this moment.
Yeah.
So I think like it would have been a cool idea. Now the lighting thing would have been really cool. Like if somehow when he came in, there just happened to be like he happened to be in the
Shadows.
the shadow of like a tree that happened to be there, and she happens to be in the light, and as they're talking, or maybe like something happens to where like they're both in the light, and then all of a sudden like something happens and like a tree like starts covering him up, like as the reveal happens.
Like maybe the sun moving behind the tree and it covers.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that would have been incredible.
Causes like a situation, or maybe he just kind of moves a little bit and he just happens to be into the shadow, and you're like, oh, as the reveal is happening, you're seeing him literally fall into the shadows.
But then as Elrond and her return back to like the smithing room where they're literally constructing the rings, and they say one is corrupt, one brings peace, and then one creates balance. Like that's that whole line that she says about needing three, and that's why they need to do what they do. And the creation of the three elven rings.
Yeah.
I think that whole just seeing the creation of it was absolutely incredible. And now, obviously, seasons 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is going to be the lead up of creating the 7 for the dwarves, the 9 for man, and it's going to be the Rings of Power. I'm in now. Like however many seasons you want to do to get to the creation of all of the Rings of Power, and then obviously the one that was created in secret by Lord Sauron, the Dark Lord himself.
So let's talk about that. Like Sauron bails. We don't see him bail, but he bails.
He does, yeah.
Because he doesn't win Galadriel.
Yep.
Which
And-
therefore ending the bromance between him and Celebrimbor.
Yes. Yeah. So when we get back to Celebrimbor, and I was expecting when Elrond and Galadriel get there, that Sauron would have like taken everything or
the
killed
material,
but we don't see him take anything. But something tells me when they're chiseling away at the little bit of mithril that they had, that he's got a little sliver. Something tells me he's got a little sliver.
Not only that, but they all talked about the plans on how to forge it. So he
Exactly.
knows exactly what
I think
to
the
do.
bigger thing is not even whether he actually has a piece or not. It's the fact that he knows how to now do it.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the bigger thing is, maybe he has a piece, but I feel like the bigger thing is that he knows now.
He's gonna have
Wasn't it mostly his idea?
honestly, it really was.
Yeah, like did he really
He
need
says,
that?
maybe you don't need force. Maybe you just need a different way of twining
Yes.
them together.
I think he was there to. Well, I don't know.
I think that he was using it as an apprenticeship. I think
Actually-
he really was.
Actually, the one thing that I think will have a hard time with is the Valinor, the gold and silver from Valinor.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's going to have a more difficult time with because, man, how intense was that scene of Galadriel turning over her only thing that she has from
Yes.
her
From
brother?
her brother, yeah.
Oh my goodness, man!
Yeah.
that was done so well.
It was so, but it also was so like representative of how she has to change to be a part of this new world.
Yeah.
She can no longer live by the sword.
Yeah, and not only that, but like what she has to let go in order to get there.
Yes.
So there's a lot that she was holding on to like in the series, and I feel like at this moment, like she realized that her holding on to getting revenge for her brother, staying like just being vengeful is what blinded her to the fact that she let Sauron come in right underneath.
Yeah.
her
So
nose.
close to her. Yeah, she was clinging so hard to the past and her brother's memory that she literally let the Dark Lord right next to her and
Yes.
a form of friendship and almost a romance with the guy.
Dude.
Like, that's
Yeah.
Can you
insane.
imagine being that, like, your whole life is devoted to catching this man, and he's right under your nose
Yep.
for that long of a time?
And just think about in her so-called mind palace, she let him hold the sword in her mind palace. Like
That's
it was
true. That's
like
true.
who else has she allowed to like even handle that sword to the point
dagger?
where
The
the
dagger?
dagger.
Okay.
Like it's been her and her brother are really the only two people that she is allowed to handle that sword. So you can tell at that point, like she still has this extreme relationship with him and this connection, because she literally allows him to hold it, even if it's just in the mind palace. She has that much. She has that much trust in him at that moment, even though it's eroding. But
Yeah.
she has that much trust in him to let him handle it.
Man, how many times can we say Mind Palace in this
Yes.
review? This is great.
Listen, only podcast that can cross over Sherlock and Rings of Power. Here we go.
Oh, I don't know
That's
if it's the only podcast, but we're thankful you're here.
We're here for you.
All right, let's
That's what it is.
continue. I think we talked enough about Sauron, Galadriel, all that.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I don't know if we need to stay here for long, but Numenor.
Yeah, the Queen Regent and
Yes.
Elendil.
Yeah, they're heading back. They have what seems like a very trusting moment heading back on the ship. But really what we need to talk about, I think, is how the king dies.
Yes, correct.
Which
Right?
is the second king that's died this week. I don't know if you guys seen following up on House of Dragon.
Oh gosh, I was gonna say where
Wow,
where are you going
what
with that?
a
Hold on.
spoiler.
Wow.
Dude, I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to add a
we're gonna have to put
spoiler.
that. Yeah. Well,
That is awful, dude. If
We'll-
someone's
we'll
listening to
edit it.
this, they're gonna be so mad.
No,
at you,
there is
bro.
no editing this. We are 100% raw right now.
Oh
Yes.
my!
We shoot from the hip.
gosh.
That's all we do.
I might actually put a little disclaimer in our information.
Yeah. Or
You
just
can't just do
Yeah,
something
yeah,
fresh.
dude.
or
like
just
that.
or just beep out whatever he says.
It's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
It was everyone.
It's
sees
pretty
it
well
coming.
expected.
Everyone sees it coming?
Yeah,
All right,
it's
all right.
yeah. But I also think it's important to where the sister of Isildur,
So,
which
the sister coming into play here.
yeah,
now.
where she comes in and where are they going and basically the orb that she's going
what
to end
role
up.
is her seeing the vision? What role is her seeing the vision going to play into the outcome of what happens in Numenor?
That, and also we understand like how does the orb like how's it going to affect with how they are in Numenor, and what can Sauron see from the other side? Because we've seen when the hobbits had it in the Lord of the Rings that the orb it's a two-way street, like
Right, yeah.
like he could see from the other side as well as they could see into it. So it'll be interesting to see if is that going to be almost a spy like for him. Is it going to be an unwitting, like they're going to go look at that stuff, and it'll be interesting to see how it also affects the sister as well, because the king stated that he stared at it too long, like he made that mistake.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that obviously she's going to play a bigger part in the future seasons. I don't know how. I don't know what her role is in the lore. My knowledge of the lore only goes so far. As far like, for example, you mentioned what is Sauron going to see on the other side? Well, I mean, Sauron and Numenor have a very strong relationship moving forward, and I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out. But that's all I'm going to say right now. I don't want to spoil too much for anybody who is not in the lore. I know the hardcore fans out there, they know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, Chad. There you go. Anyway, but yes, I'm interested to see how it plays out in future seasons. The Queen practicing how many steps it's going to take to get to the whatever main post or whatever, and it's so that she can still appear as like the Queen. She's over there rehearsing her steps and trying to figure it out, and then Elendil coming in and just. I'm here for you, my queen. But then she's like, but who's there for you? Like that was a great scene as well.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, well, that's the funny thing. The one thing I hate about prequel stuff is that we know the stakes already and we know what happens. So, for example, like Isildur, we know that he's fine.
Yes.
So this whole feeling that we see of Elendil, yes, great acting, phenomenal emotional scenes.
Like he's distraught.
Yeah, he's distraught. But like at the end of the day, like, dude, get over it.
But
He's
we
alive.
don't know if
he's
he'll.
alive.
Do we know if he'll die before he sees his son again?
No,
though.
I don't know that.
Right, so
Yeah. So okay, cool.
So there could be some
There
stakes
could be
still.
some stakes there. Okay.
By the way, calling it now. The first thing outside of like the intro screen for episode 1 of season 2 will be Beric finding Isildur. Or whatever.
Yes.
Isildur.
Isildur.
Barrack, yes.
But
Barrack
doesn't-
has
That's the
to.
first thing we're gonna see.
But don't they fight in the very beginning of the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Don't they fight in the same battle together, the father and the son?
I don't
I don't think
so.
the father's. I don't think the father is he there.
No idea.
Because
Actually, you know what? Yeah,
because
because they both form Gondor. Both father
Yeah.
and son form. So yes, they
Yes,
meet up.
yeah,
there.
'cause
so anyway, you're wrong.
Yeah,
And you guys just totally breezed over my prediction. I
because
feel.
it's invalid. It's invalid.
I feel just unheard.
Unheard.
By the way, my mother-in-law totally called me out on because she listened to our reviews and she said that we've been pronouncing his name wrong. But to which I almost said, "Well, yeah, I pretty much pronounce everybody's name wrong
Yeah.
in this show."
Get over it.
No,
I mean, I
I'm
just
glad,
been,
I'm glad
I
you're
just been kind
listening.
of letting you guys get along with it because it's
No, I'm-
Isildur.
What did it say it again?
Isildur.
Isildur? All right, whatever. I mean, yeah. Cool. I shouldn't say whatever. It's
So-
been a great show.
Yeah, it has been a great show.
Like,
However,
for all the purists listening who hate me
Yeah.
because it seems like I butcher
there's
the
a few
names.
out there. We know who you are.
It's okay. I don't blame you for hating me. I'd probably be frustrated with me too if I was in your shoes. Point is, I think it's been a fun, incredible show. So
It's been a fun ride, and you have to kind of adjust your mind as far as taking it from the pages to the screen. So if you can accept that, which I have, I'm all along for the ride. Now, however, the finale was great, but where the heck was Durin, man? What the heck was going on with that? Like, why would you leave the dwarves out of this?
Like I said, man, I feel like they really dropped the ball with like Bullrag and following up with that scene.
I don't know. I think they did. I think it was perfectly fine. I think they set up every single universe to be at the point to where you're intrigued about what is happening next.
Yeah.
So I feel like showing the Balrog was their way of having you intrigued about what's coming next, but letting you know that next season there's going to be a lot of stuff coming along.
Right.
I think if they had shown the Balrog, I don't think you can leave the Balrog like halfway through a fight for this
right.
season. So you'd have to have an entire fight with the Balrog.
Listen, the Balrog is also Durin's Bane. That's literally the name of the Balrog. Is going to be Durin's Bane. Like that's how you
Bane?
know. Yes, Durin's Bane. That's
what does
the
that
name
mean,
of the Balrog.
Bane?
Listen, I'm not 100% certain right now, right this second, but I can Google it later for you and talk
That's
to you.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to even ask. Let's move
It
on.
means like the thorn in the side.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Cool.
there's gonna be some stakes there for Durin and
You're just showing
and the
what he
Balrog.
doesn't know once again. All
It's
right.
okay. Don't worry
Are there
about it.
any other storylines we're missing? Because there wasn't.
Well, I mean, Arondir, we're missing that one.
Yes.
and Bronwyn.
Yeah,
Sorry.
everything to do with.
I meant
yeah.
I meant
Yeah,
that
in
was
this
in the
episode?
finale before we get to the things that maybe weren't in the finale. Because I think it was only a few things that were in the finale, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
kind of
just,
set it up to where like
3.
episode 7 was setting up everything to do with Aaron Deere, and everything to do with Durin was kind of like finished by the end
Yeah.
of that episode.
Yeah.
which allowed them to do doing a nice long drawn out thing to end with Galadriel and Elrond, and with everybody to do with the Harefoot. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about anything else we're missing or what we're looking forward to, go ahead.
I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to future seasons, especially. I see now that the end of season 1 is the creation of the Elven Rings, so I can only
Yes.
assume that the end of season 2 is the creation of the Dwarven Rings, and I can only assume that the end of season 3 will be the creation of the man's 9 rings, and then somewhere along the lines there's going to be the creation of the one that the Dark
Yes.
Lord has. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing that build up to the creation of the rings in the final episode. I really am interested to see how the dwarves decide to play their cards now. That do the elvens show off their power or something like that? Like, or what goes on with that makes the dwarvens want to do the same?
Yeah.
That's where I'm interested to see that storyline.
Well, it'll be interesting just to see, like, if it's just legitimately one of those things where they see that the elves have the rings, and they're like, oh, now we have to make sure that we have a deterrent in case the elves decide to go rogue in any sort of a way, you know. So is it something like along those lines to where it's like, you know, or maybe it is something like the elves get a little bit big for their britches, and the dwarves are like, okay, well, we have all this mithril on our own right. Why don't we just make our, you know, get our own rings going? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I saw somebody on Twitter say that they need Jeff Bezos to drop $1 billion a year so that we can get more Rings of Power.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Please.
But it'll probably be around this time next year where they drop the season again, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think pre-production has already started with the Rings of Power season 2.
Okay.
So we're on our way there.
On our way.
And I did see that they were thinking that this could go as long as 6 seasons,
Yes.
but as short as 3 seasons.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, hopefully it's longer than 3. But, I imagine with the success it's had, that we'll get a lot of it.
Yeah, I
think so, too.
What I would love to see is them to make a plan and be like, maybe even as soon as the second season starts, be like, okay, this is gonna be 5 seasons. This is gonna be 5 seasons. We're doing 5, and then we're ending.
Yeah, like we're not going to stretch yeah,
I'm
that's
a
right.
fan of that. I'm a fan
Whatever
of
the
that.
amount is, we're not going to stretch an extra season because of
Yes.
interest or demand. We're
Yeah.
just going to commit to the story.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
As I already said, you know, we talked about Breaking Bad in this episode, but Breaking Bad, 5 seasons, they're done, and it was fantastic. Just do the same thing.
So
5 is a
opposite of
healthy number.
Lost.
5 is a healthy number. Oh,
Yes.
yes, opposite of Lost. Yeah.
All right, we just mentioned Lost. Probably a good time for us to end the pod. Okay, last thoughts. Anyone need to say anything else before we go?
Nope.
The closing song, I felt
yes.
the finale perfectly.
Yes.
And just like with just how they made the Elven rings and everything, Sauron's influence, you know, with that, and then like closing it out with that song was just perfectly orchestrated
Yes.
in my mind.
I agree. I enjoyed that. I actually listened to the whole thing. I didn't like end the
Yeah,
episode,
same.
close the app or anything like that. I listened to it. It was great. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Epic. Okay, well, again, big shout out to everybody who has tuned in, who's listened or watched. We thank you so much. Please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Leave a review. Leave a comment wherever you're listening or watching. And be sure to come back next year for more Rings of Power. And also, check out the rest of our content. We're covering a lot of things right now. We got... even tonight we're doing reviews on She-Hulk and Andor, so there's a lot we got going on. We got some big movies coming out the next month that we're going to be reviewing. So please return and help us to just join us at the round table, the square round table we got here. So with all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy, Shamato, and Apple Zax, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening or watching the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.